Managing diabetes or even your weight during the holidays can be a challenge. My name is Christy Morrison and I'm a registered dietitian and a certified diabetes educator with Milford Regional Physicians Group. And today I'd like to talk to you about a few tips and tricks to survive the holidays. So I encourage people to use the plate model when they're portioning their foods out for the Thanksgiving meal. Draw an imaginary line down the middle of your plate and fill half of that with those high fiber, delicious non-starchy vegetables. If you do go back for seconds, these would be the foods that you could go back and have a second helping of. So the second half of the plate, we're actually going to divide that one in half. So we're going to have quarter sections that are left for that one. So the first part of that plate would be the meat or protein section. So good choices for this would be a roasted turkey breast or chicken, or even if you have some vegetarians in your house, you can even try a vegetarian loaf. Since these two portions you'll see are a little bit smaller, the portion sizes are really important. I like to use tools that we have right around the house. So for your meat portion, try to make sure your meat portion is about the size of a deck of cards. And if you're curious, this ends up being about a 3 to 4 ounce piece of meat. And the last but not least section of the plate is where we would put our starches. And I've chosen today to look at a classic favorite, the potato. So since portion sizes, especially if you're managing your blood sugars, of this section are going to be really important, try to find a potato that's roughly about the size of a computer mouse. That will help you to control your blood sugars at this festive meal. Also consider how you might prepare that potato. Consider roasting it instead of mashing it and putting some butter and salt on it. That way you'll at least contain a little extra fiber because you might keep the skin on it. Or better yet, consider swapping out the white potato for sweet potato. The inside of the sweet potato does actually contain a little bit of extra fiber, and it also adds an interesting sweet flavor to your Thanksgiving meal. So we had talked about putting the plate together. Maybe you're wondering what you can use for condiments or seasonings for some of your side dishes. One of the choices that you can try is trans fat-free margarine, or whipped butter is another good alternative. And as far as seasonings, there are many, many different options for seasoning without adding a lot of salt. On potatoes or even sweet potatoes, rosemary is a good option. And this happens to be a no salt seasoning, and there are lots of Mrs. Dash options that are also available. So most of us are familiar with the usual cranberry sauce, and these are usually made not using the whole cranberry, so they're going to be missing some of the fiber like we talked about with the potatoes before. Another alternative is homemade. I know, I thought for years too that it was really difficult to make your own cranberry sauce, but it's actually not that bad. So first you will need some fresh cranberries, and you can usually find these in the produce department, especially this time of year. And what you will do is you will pour the fresh cranberries in the pot. Then you will cover the pot with just enough water to cover them. Bring it to a boil, and they'll begin to pop and then release the goodness that are inside the cranberries. Then you will want to season them. Some good options to season are some fresh orange juice, zest of an orange, or I even like to use a little bit of cinnamon in mine. Last, because the tartness of the cranberries usually require at least a little bit of sugar, there are a couple different choices that you can use. You can use a little bit of regular sugar to sweeten it, just enough to cut the little tartness that cranberries naturally have. Okay, so now we've finished up with the delicious Thanksgiving meal. It's time for dessert. So people with diabetes sometimes tell me that they're a little nervous about wondering if they can have any treats after the Thanksgiving meal. Yes, you can. A staple at Thanksgiving are pies. One of the things that I have found at the grocery store that's really handy is these individual single-serving pie crusts. These are actually made from graham cracker, so it's a little bit lower in fat than the conventional pie crust. And at least this is actually good for the entire family because everyone can pick a favorite pie filling that they have, and each person can have their own. I love chocolate cream pie. So a super easy way to do this is to get the individually ready-made and this one actually happens to be no sugar added, chocolate pie filling. Add it to the graham cracker crust. Add whatever condiments you like, and Cool Whip, and usually topped with a little bit of berries, make a great dessert. I've got one last tip for you today, and that is about some lower calorie, lower sugar drink options. I'm going to show you one of my favorites, and that's a apple cider. First, look for some lower sugar or light apple juice, and then what you're going to do is you're going to pour into a shallow pan on the stove. Then you're going to add the mulling spices. And these are usually found near the apples in the produce department. A lot of times they come loose and you just need to add them into a little spice bag. So this is already filled with the spices. What you're going to do is you're going to put this on the stove. You're going to bring it up to a boil. Your kitchen will smell delicious. You're going to let it simmer for maybe 20 or 30 minutes, but you could even let it simmer a little bit longer than that. Once it's done, you can either serve it hot or cold. In the wintertime especially, I prefer it warm. Then you can just pour it into your mug. And I like to garnish it with a little wedge of orange and a cinnamon stick, and you're good to go. From all of us at Diabetes Education, we want to wish you a happy, healthy, and safe holiday season. Cheers.